Hey everyone, welcome back to Plywood Boat Construction. I'm your host, Floyd, and I would say a craftsman too, but as you can see, built some frames, and if you look, this chapter should be titled Don't Do What I Do, as if you know anything about boats and how frames align, those don't. So, don't do what I did. What you should do is you do the hull, or the keel, excuse me. You do the keel, like I did, and then quit being cheap like me, and you go and you purchase the transom piece. Then you cut the transom piece out. Then you start building your frame pieces from the stern forward because you go off the transom. Now, if you remember all the way back to episode 1, I showed you the plans for the boat. Those were from a line drawing. That line drawing was approximately 4 inches across, and I converted it and expanded on it. And I started, after the frames started not lining up, understand, I had built 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. By the time I realized they weren't lining up. I thought the curvature of the boat and everything, they were just going to magically align because I wasn't building them in comparison to each other. I didn't do any of the layouts in the drawing. Those are all line drawings done on PowerPoint. If you've ever done anything on PowerPoint, you know, moving around the stuff is not as easy. It's not AutoCAD or anything like that. So you got to group all the stuff together, then move it back and forth and overlay it and whatnot. It's marginally challenging. And so I didn't do that. I didn't do comparisons of angles, things like that. And as you can tell in the initial shot, my angles were off. So what you do is you come back to the stern of the boat or the transom and you lay things out. And as you can see here, I am building, taking a frame piece there. That is the vertical of the frame, and then that is actually a bottom hull piece from section number 13, I believe. And it may end up actually being section 14 moving further forward as we sort all this mess I've created out. Again, this episode should be chaptered Don't Do What I Do. Anyway, I'm using that as a template, and I'm using the transom, and then I'm going to make frame number 1 based off of it, and then I'll move forward and make 2, 3, 4, and 5, work my way forward, and then we'll see how, when I get closer, this is frame 14 right there, and it actually looks fairly well. But if you look at frame 15, you can see the angle is off. And then frame 16 looks like it's back on. Frame 17 is actually not held down by anything. It's swinging in the wind there. But frame 18 actually looks pretty good right now, but it's actually tilted back right now. And then the union point is way off. That's where the bottom of the hole meets the side of the hole. So, and I thought that was going to adjust with the curvature of the boat. And I should have been more precise on my math working forward. But anyway, that's where we're at. So if you're ever going to build a boat, keel, transom, frames, and compare stuff. Always compare stuff. Compare each frame piece to the one on either side of it. And I didn't do that, and I wasted, of course this plywood was waste to begin with, but I wasted my plywood I was trying to reuse in making my boat. But anyway, I want to give a huge shout out to Woodworkers Supply. Like I've mentioned before, I live here in the desert in Arizona, and marine plywood is challenging to come by. Needless to say, I'm used to buying it in plywood or in any hardware store. Not here in the desert. But they had it, and I got a beautiful piece there. And hopefully, well, it will come out really well. And as I go to assemble the transom, I also made some errors in cutting it out, and I'll share those. So hopefully you folks won't make the same mistakes I have.
Okay, what we are doing here is another exercise in humility as we are laying out the frames, and this is something that I should have done. I tried doing it, but I wasn't comparing them to each other like I've discussed before, and they form 19 through 15 really don't line up. So what we're doing now, we've come back, we have the transom done. Well, it's not done, it's cut out and laminated, and we've sketched that out here. This line here is the actual transom transposed. We're using that, and then this is going to be frame number 1, which is at the rear. This is the angle of frame number 2 and frame number 3. And then this is the gunnels. The dotted line there is frame number 1's outer gunnel dimension, frame number 2, frame number 3 as they come forward. And then I'm going to do all the way up to 12. And the actual frame laying here is frame number 13. And that is the last frame we have before it starts making a radical curve to the bow. That is a huge, basically you need what's called a French curve, which I don't have, and to make all your calculations, because they get gradually more extreme as you get toward the bow. It's not a consistent turn. It gets tighter and tighter as you get toward the bow, because you're bringing actually 3 angles, 3 points together. You're bringing both gunnels, the sides, and then the keel all to a single point. I'm actually bringing 5 points together because I have the sides of the boat and then the bottom of the hull together. I have 4 panels, but the union pieces are 5. It'll be here. That's where the keel is going to go. Then this is the union point, and then on the hull, this whole section where it connects will be flat. And then this is the side of the boat. We'll connect there and it'll be flat. And then it will move from the stern or transom forward, and gradually it's going to get wider at the beam for strength, for one thing, and then larger displacement of water, because that's how things float. They displace water. And then it's gonna go out, and then our widest frame is gonna be frame number 9. That's our what's called the beam, the widest point of the boat. And then it's gonna come back in toward the bow of the boat. And you wanna make that narrow so it glides through the water, doesn't plow through the water. And then it is a math problem of sorts. And my degree's in liberal arts, not engineering. So anyway, that's what we're doing here, is we're trying to salvage this. I did have to buy some wood. I had to buy the transom. It was $120, and I did get marine plywood, and that was amazing finding marine plywood in Arizona, but they actually had it. And static wouldn't even be able to come close to how excited I was to find marine plywood here. And then the other thing was I ran out of all my scrap wood, but I got through to, this is transom number 13, so I got 19 through 13 done. That was not transoms, frames. I got the 6 frames done. I don't know how many I'm going to be using because, like I said, I messed them up. And so this is me recovering from messing them up. So I'm going to continue drawing along here. And I'm going to get the angle down because these are all based off the transom. I have my center line of the transom right here. And then we'll go off that, and I'll get one side, and what I'll be able to do, I'll be able to make these unions. See, one side of the piece extends over, and then there's an exact piece on the other side of this, and it extends out, and then this piece extends, whoa, missed that on the camera shot. This piece extends out to the vertical piece, and then they overlap. You have a longer one of these, and then it goes under, and then you glue them. They're 5 layers thick, so they come out 5 mils times 5 is 25, and a conversion of centimeters to inches is 2.56 centimeters equals an inch. So these come out right at an inch thick. There's too much shadow here. I'll get over here and we can see the layers. Yeah, there you go. You can see the actual layers there and how they interlock on the end. And since it's plywood to begin with, and then I make it 5 layers of plywood, these things are really freaking strong. But anyway, I got more math and drawing to do, and I'm gonna get back to that. And the boat is gonna move further towards completion. Thanks for hanging out with me.